I'm not the smartest guy in the world, nor have I contributed significantly to society, but if I do have a legacy that is connected to my name, I truly hope it's this vertical brewing system. I've been honing it over the last 3-4 years and just been adjusting heights and putting equipment in here and shifting it around. I really think this is the best design for a lot of people in small spaces. When I first moved to Korea, people said, oh, you couldn't make beer, you can't make beer. And I made extract. And then they said, well, you can't make all grain beer because barley at that time for 50 pounds was $225 a sack. So I malted my own. And then they said you couldn't make a lot of beer. And then I went vertical and I made 10 gallons. So whenever I meet somebody that says you can't do this, when you take them into a laundry closet and you show them 10 gallons of beer being made at 4.5 square foot layout, or at least footprint, it changes their tune. And you can do this anywhere. It helps if you have a fluid drain. It helps if you have water, obviously. But there are workarounds. After you understand the principles of this system, going up, starting one time, using the water up top, and then letting gravity bring it down, there's a lot less movement that you need. Once you go vertical, it becomes more efficient. So first, let me explain the components of this. Up here we got the mash tun. Here we have the single hitter, and you can see this in the other videos. I just left it out of the drawing. Here's the boil kettle. Down here, I keep the kegs and some laundry. And some people I'm sure will ask about the rack. And the rack is important because A, it has to hold a lot of weight, and don't do the 17 millimeter posts. Those are far too light. It's something you might see in a bathroom. These are 26s, 26 millimeter, and they hold 225 pounds or 100 kilos. So weight is not an issue here. Also, in my setup, you see a stainless steel slotted rack, and that's great. That's basically what you see at a big box store. It seems to be the most prevalent. You'll see them in kitchens as well. However, I've seen slatted wooden racks, like a wood decking, that you can use that just the same. Put a small hole in here for your valve or your high temp hose. So there are workarounds. Let me explain the components, why I spaced them there, why I sized them the way I did. With this, we want to do two things. With this insulated mash tun, we want to do two things. We want to have a comfortable place for the mash. We don't want to tap it out. If you're doing a 5-gallon igloo cooler, you're going to tap it out early. And secondly, I want the ale pails to fit in here. I want it to be a water bath. I want it to be dual purpose. I think I'm going to say that 80 liters or 80 quarts is about the smallest you're probably going to get to fit these in. I had 100 at my disposal, so I went with this. Alright, so it's game day. We're ready to go. If you watch Steven's Saison brew, you recognize that we mashed it 66.5 C or 152 F, but we only struck 2 degrees C or 4 degrees F hotter. Well, that all changes with this. We've got a much bigger unit here, and we're going to lose temperature to the headspace here as well as the mash tun first. I do preheat my mash tun with a liter of boiling water. In the summertime, I lose 7 Celsius, 12 F. So my strike water on a batch that I want to mash at 68 C is actually 75 C. If I want to mash at 156 F, I strike at 168 F, and I'll go ahead and tell you why you might be losing this, and thinking about your system, why you might lose this. Well, I got 2 things here, 3 things actually. We're doing a double batch, and that is double the amount of grain. So I'm moving those in. Well, I'm only one man, and I'm in a laundry closet, which means I got to bring in my strike water too. My strike water is down here. Remember that kitchen stool I got? And I got to bail that in with a baler. So I'm losing it there. You'll find that your strike temperatures will be a little bit different in the summer versus the wintertime. In the wintertime, for example, I lose 8 Celsius on the transfer 14 F. There's no shame in losing temperature. On your first batch, shoot for the middle. Try the brew toad application. Try the brew toad settings. Take note. There's no shame in losing 8 Celsius. You need to know how much you're going to lose. I know I lose 7 or 8 Celsius depending on the season. Maybe you're 10 Celsius. But as long as you know that number and you can replicate it, that's all you need. The grain doesn't care how much you lost. It just cares about this mash temperature here. So we've mashed in, we've struck, we've doughed in, we've mixed the water. We've got everything in suspension. We set our timer. We're going to set it for 30 minutes and I'll explain why. Set it for 30 minutes, you put the lid on. In 30 minutes you're going to come back, you're going to do two things. A, you're going to stir this mash again. That's going to redistribute the heat. You're going to eliminate some hot spots. And B, you're going to start this sparge water here. Because we're dealing with a lot of mass, it's going to take a little bit of time to get it up to temperature. Whether or not you want to conduct a mash out is up to you. Also worth mentioning, if you forget to start this up, that's okay. You can conduct a cold sparge, and there are papers on this about how the efficiency loss isn't all that much. However, you're losing time because this water down here will eventually need to be heated up anyways down here to be brought to boil. So it's best to start your sparge water heating while this is mashing. So you've mashed for 60 minutes and you're ready to go. You've got your empty boil kettle here. If your chiller doesn't fit here, you need to put it in here, slide the pot in, then start your lauter, because you're not going to want to move it if it weighs 100 pounds. So you start your lauter, and depending on the size of the beer you made, you're probably going to collect anywhere between 5 and 6 gallons, 20 and 24 liters. Collect that until it comes to a snail's pace. Stop your valve, loop it back on it with the zip tie, whatever you got to do to stop it. At that point, bring your heat stick from your sparge water here into your boil kettle. Turn it on high, you want to get to boil. Take your sparge water, bail it up here into your mash tun. That's your sparge. You can cut it loose damn near immediately. Open this up and collect your runnings. And you're getting higher, higher, higher. Resist the urge to collect every drop. And by this, it's twofold. If you collect every drop, you got to boil more down. Remember, our end game in here is to fill these ale pails at 22, 23 liters, 5.8 gallons. Because our end game is to fill 2 kegs, 18.9 liters / 5 gallons. I don't know about you, but I don't like wasting beer, but I don't like bottling either. So we just want to fill the kegs, no more, no less. In the case of a 60-minute boil, you might collect 50 liters, probably 48 liters. You collect 48 liters because we know our evaporation rate on 60 minutes is what? Sometimes it offers as a percentage. I like to think of it more as a volume. I lose 4 liters or I lose 1 gallon over 60 minutes. So I'm looking at 48 liters or 13 gallons. If I'm boiling 90 minutes for whatever reason, I got to bump that up by 50% because I'm boiling 50% longer, which is 6 liters or 1.5 gallons. So collect what you need and then stop. After you stop, you can pitch these grains. You can clean this out. You got your heat stick. We're coming up to boil. Remember, we've got a huge volume here, so it's going to take a little bit while. When I start the boil, I start my sanitization of these. I clean this out, and I crack a beer. Some people do it after mash. I do it after I start the boil because I still need to clean this out, and it's kind of hot. So I start my boil. As soon as I see those beautiful bubbles come to the top, then I know if I'm doing a 60-minute hop regimen, I can do that. Maybe I'm doing 20 and out, a hop burst. You can do that. Or maybe you're doing a hop steep. But after you're boiling, then you got your options there. Remember, it takes a while on a 3 kilowatt heat stick to get it up. Okay, you're all boiled out. You're ready to rock and roll. You turn this off and you start chilling. At 10 gallons, we don't have the luxury of a brew in the bag. We don't have the luxury to move that into a sink or move that into a bathtub. You're stationary, which means you're going to have to chill from spigots into your immersion chiller. In the wintertime, no big deal. We're looking at about 30 minutes, at least on my setup, to chill this down to pitching temperature. In the summertime, not so much. Might be even impossible to do an ale in the summertime. On Steven's system, it took me 45 minutes to do 5 gallons to get it down to 27 Celsius, 85 F. That's because we were pitching a Saison, and that was okay. That's pretty much the only thing we could make. At this point, you got your pitching temperature wort. If you wanted to hillbilly it up a bit, you could ferment in here, pitch 2 packets, put on a lid. You'd probably do all right. For the rest of us, we want to go into an ale pail or fermenter. And you're probably thinking, hey, why don't I have a valve here? I could just kick this open. Several reasons. Spigot is what you're looking at. If you do a spigot, A, you got to buy the spigot. B, you got to mount the spigot. C, it's not got to leak. 4, sometimes it jams up if you don't have a good pickup. And 5, you've got dead space. 6, it'll snag on your clothes. I think of a lot of good reasons not to have a spigot. I can think of several good reasons to have half-inch thermoplastic high-temperature hosing. Thick-walled as well. It kinks less. 2 meters of it, 6 feet, fantastic. I've had mine for 4 years. I would buy it again in a heartbeat. When I got this down to pitching temperature, I start a siphon. Up and over. I fill this first ale pail up with what I need. I don't even break siphon, I just move the end of this nozzle over here into my sanitized ale pail, of course. I fill both of these up, put the lids on, and I shake them about a minute to aerate them. Then I put my yeast on, my yeast in, one packet if I'm brewing a moderately strength beer. Put my airlocks on, get on my footstool, pick this up, put it in my mash tun. I fill it up with water bath. Remember, we're about 18C here, 64F. I want to do the same thing here. After I got it up here, I'm looking at about 90 liters or 90 quarts of water, which means I'm also looking at 90 liters or 90 quarts of thermal mass, which means it takes a lot of energy to make this move up. It also takes a lot of energy to make this move down, which is fantastic for fermenting. Fermenting, one of my cardinal rules. It's one of the most important things you can do. This temperature is probably going to treat you well for most yeasts. Days 1 through 3, 1 through 4 are the most important. At the most babysitting I have to do on this is in the heat of summer in Korea. I put in 2 liters of frozen ice. So an ice bottle. I put in the morning. I come back from work. I switch it out. I put that one in the freezer. I put the new one in here. It doesn't move. It moves 1 degree north Celsius or 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I bring it back down with that water bottle. I can't think of a home application that's lower technology that costs less money than this that works better. Okay, option 2. If you're not of able-bodied, or you're just smart enough to know that you don't want to lift 50 pounds, 20 kilo, what you can do is, you still got your grip of wort here, and you need to transfer down here. Instead of siphoning it down here, lift these empty ale pails, these sanitized ale pails, put them up here into your empty but clean mash tun, and take a sanitized baler and move it, gallon at a time. Sure, it might take a while, but you'll save yourself the stress and the potential injury of lifting these up. Rinse, repeat. Aerate. Put your yeast in, put your airlock in, put your lid on top if you didn't put an airlock in. Otherwise, the lid isn't necessarily necessary. You don't lose a lot that way. From start to finish, this is the vertical mash tun system. Again, I can't stress how well this works for me, how happy it makes me, how efficient it is, how much of my money I'll get back. I sell this rack, I can sell all this gear. Having a mash tun, having a thermally insulated mash tun will help you grow as a brewer, will help you be consistent as a brewer. Having thermal fermentation temperature mash tun / firm chamber will help you as a brewer to make better beer. There's a saying, buy once, cry once. Think it over.
Did you know this video is actually a small clip from a more comprehensive brewing class? To learn more about beer brewing from my 2 courses, check out the links below. To support our homesteading channel and join our awesome community, chatting about beers, gardening, DIY, short-term rental hosting, woodworking, and more, become a patron on Patreon. Finally, if you receive value from this video, we'd appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, or commented below to help the algorithm share this video with other homebrewers around the world. Thanks.